You're listening to Power Athlete Radio, a podcast dedicated to empowering your performance every damn day. Join former NFL pro and Power Athlete founder John Welborn as he dissects the greatest minds in strength, conditioning, and more. So whether your goal is to be the hammer, destroy mediocrity, or simply move the dirt, you've come to the right place. Now with the warm-up done, let the gains begin.
Hey, Power Athlete Nation. We got one more podcast with Mr. Arash Soofiani. This time we're going to dive into what type of place should you look for if you're interested in taking your kid to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. One of the questions I get hit on Instagram constantly is, I'm thinking about doing BJJ. I want to take my kid. What should I look for? What are the pitfalls? And more importantly, how do I know if I'm in the right place? So Arash has really grown as not only a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, but as an incredible coach who coaches my kids. And seeing the love that he has for working with these kids and the way the parents treat them, they really treat them with a ton of respect and regard. So I want to dive in a little bit on that journey, what to look for, and more importantly, as a parent, if you're interested in taking your kid, what pitfalls should you look for, and how do you know if you're in the right place? So tune in to this one with Mr. Arash Soofiani. Hey, welcome to another episode of Power Athlete Radio. I'm sitting here with my good friend, Mr. Arash Soofiani, and I want to talk a little bit about your side hustle. I mean, I know your main hustle is being a killer on the mats and training and doing all that you do, but really, I think your passion and where I've seen you really just being amazing is as a BJJ coach for kids. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you got into it, some best practices, and really what it's brought to your life?
I think it was always the goal to share back what I learned. I think when I started off in martial arts, it was hard to see it because it's me time, just like any other athlete. You're thinking about ways that you can improve yourself. And then I think usually around 24, 25, you start thinking about your training partners, because now you've gotten so good that you actually have to bring everybody up around you so that they can train with you. Otherwise, you're just going to be jumping from camp to camp.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden you're like working a summer camp, and then you're helping out with the kids class. And I think the kids class was like a cleansing experience, because I went from having an adult brain the whole time, just thinking about what other adults think of me, to, oh man, now I have to interact and engage with kids. I have to come correct. So the things that I say have to be things that I back up. I have to bow on the mat exactly how I teach them how to bow on the mat. My gi's got to be straighter and clean and done up right. I can't hang my belt from my shoulder or my neck. That's not something I used to do anyway, but just in general, I had to tighten up. So I guess with kids, the reward is that you can help them avoid the pitfalls that you encountered in martial arts, and you can also be the person that you wanted your own coach to be to you. So I think it's a very unique opportunity as a martial artist to be able to give back.
Do you think it's improved your martial arts and what you're doing in jiu-jitsu by the fact that you can go and work with these kids and find different ways to motivate them?
For sure.
Because it's like herding cats. When I bring Cash, I'm like, this is like controlled chaos and mayhem.
Oh, yeah. If you can't teach a kid how to shoot a single leg in less than a sentence, you're not a good coach. So it's just like with anything. When you're personal training, you got to be able to teach somebody how to do dumbbell bench press in a few words as possible. Just stop talking about joint angles and cross bridges, and that doesn't matter. Like, you're trying to get them moving. So a lot of great coaches do that anyway. It's just when it comes to kids, you have to capture their attention. So you have to be really good and have a good understanding of the movement you're going to show, so that you can just drop it down to the bare minimum. What are the things I'm trying to do? I'm trying to put my head in the center of their chest and pick up their leg. Keep my eyes up. That's it. So then that makes you better when you start training with adults, because now all of a sudden you've got 3 bullet points to hit. So you hit the single leg and it's much simpler in your brain, and you don't have to think about it as hard. And also when you train the kids, you see that, like, the games that they play, we do grappling games. Mm-hmm. And instead of making it some abstract point system kind of match, we just say, hey, your job is to get behind him. And then the guy on bottom, his job is not to let you get him behind and close the guard. Okay, ready, go. So then that makes it better for them. But then also in my brain, I'm like, oh yeah, all I got to do is spin behind the guy. There's no more
shoulder
grips,
drag and arm and start worrying about a lot of different
Brazilian
things.
voodoo, like, oh, you cannot grip like that.
Yeah, you got to go
You
thumb
have to
up.
grip it like this. I call it like Brazilian mysticism.
Yeah.
Like early jiu-jitsu days.
Yeah.
It was like you can only get the word of God from the Pope. You can only get the real jiu-jitsu from a Brazilian.
Yeah.
But now it's, I think.
Well, one of my jokes with Shanji is I'll send him like clips. I'm like, is this American jiu-jitsu or is this Brazilian jiu-jitsu? And he's like, no, that is not jiu-jitsu. And so Shanji's whole take is that everything he learned is jiu-jitsu, and that anything else, it's he's like, oh, they're wearing camouflage gis. It's not jiu-jitsu.
That's not a no-gi. That's a luta libre. We play that on the beach in Rio de Janeiro.
What should a parent like for? Next question I have is about parents, and especially managing the parents, because you have two types. You have three types of parents. You have the parents that show up who probably are on their phone their whole time and are just happy that their kids are doing something and they're just stuck in whatever they're doing. The parents that are a little nervous for their kids that somehow their kids are going to get hurt. And then there's probably the third parent who's like wanting their kid to go out there and smash people.
Yeah.
How do you manage those different parents and more importantly, manage their expectation? We interrupt this episode with a shameless self-promotion. Are you pushing through performance roadblocks caused by pain or janky movement mechanics? Knock the rust off with our movement health courses, used by thousands of athletes worldwide, from average Joes to MVPs. Our courses give you the tools to assess and fix yourself so you can get back to break-in necks and cash in checks. Not convinced? Get a taste of how our courses can help you by enrolling in a free sample today. Head to powerathletehq.com and search courses from the menu. Now back to the show.
Well, the first one probably has the most sustainable mindset. The one who's just happy their kids are doing the activity, because they're just keeping the water warm, and then when it's time to boil and they want to compete, then we can turn up the heat. But the kid is going to have much more progress if they're having fun every day and being able to show up every day. Okay. And not being afraid of making mistakes. I think that's huge, especially, I don't have kids yet, but I watch the way you parent the kids, and I've watched a lot of really awesome parents in my community parent their kids. And what it seems to me is that not making the mistakes super huge and making it seem like they can recover from them is, I think, the best strategy. And then the second parent, the one that's like super concerned, you're going to have to stop helicoptering your parents. Helicoptering your kids, right? Yeah. They're going to scrape their knees. Things are going to go wrong, but they'll be able to bounce back from it. I think you just have to have faith in that.
Yeah, kids are resilient.
That probably goes. It's probably the same treatment for the third parent as well. Stop helicoptering your kids.
Yeah.
Stop trying to live through your kids, because they'll probably do great things just in a different arena, but you don't have to mold them into the jiu-jitsu athlete that you want them to be at 5 years old or even at 10 years old. It really doesn't even matter what they do athletically until they're 13 or 14 when they really decide what they want to do. So just let them have fun.
I think any of those parents are a little too overzealous. I love how you guys try to pull the parent into the class, where you're like, oh man, you're really into this. You should come roll with us as the adults. And then once they get in, it completely changes their entire perception of this thing.
Well, we do the Parent and Me class, right, at Six Blaze Lake Travis.
Which I've been to.
Yeah, we do the Parent and Me. And then we have parents that, wouldn't want to regularly train jiu-jitsu, kind of dip their toes in with their kid in a fun environment. And we actually have like little games that they can play with their kids too. And it was funny to see all these parents dripping sweat after the kids' warm-up, which is... It's a 10-minute long warm up, and it's just basic crawling patterns, right? And these parents can't believe their heart rates when they're waiting in the line with their kid. Like the kid's trying to high five them, they're like, "Oh yeah, high five," and which is cool to see. Which means that their kids are really developing into something. So I know kids are more resilient, but the parents actually can see the value in the training that they're getting because they actually feel it, which is also something that we talk about whenever you're signing a kid up is you want both parents. If the decision maker doesn't show up to the trial, they don't know what they're talking about. They didn't see what their kid was doing. So they're just like, oh, that's X amount of money a month. I'm not going to pay that.
People are more willing to spend money on their kids than themselves.
Surely.
People have no issue spending money on their kids.
Yeah.
And, it's like their dogs and kids, and then they'll kind of make themselves last. If you were a potential parent, or you got a phone call from somebody who didn't live, near you, or somebody back in California, they were interested in taking their kid to jiu-jitsu, what would you how would you counsel them? Like, what would you tell them to look for? What would be the mentorship that you would offer them to find a good place to do jiu-jitsu for their kids? This episode of Power Athlete Radio is powered by Train Heroic, the most immersive strength training app experience on the market. We've built an online training business by partnering with Train Heroic to deliver all of our world-class training programs like Jack Street, Hammer, Field Strong, and Grindstone. To learn which Power Athlete training program best suits your goals, head to powerathletehq.com/training. And if you're a coach looking to build a business with the best training tech in the business, head to trainheroic.com/powerathletehq. And now back to the show.
I think an environment that is welcoming, if it's clean. A clean dojo means that you have, one, it's safe. So that means they're considering everything that goes on in the dojo. So clean bathrooms, clean mats. Your kids are probably not going to get sick or get ringworm or staph or anything. So that's number one. That's the first thing you can see. Number two, staff should be welcoming. So they should be able to come in, say hi to you right off the bat. No intimidation. And also they should be warm. They should be very friendly. They should be able to interact with the kids right away and, give them a high five or, eventually be able to talk to the kid. Right. And then number three, like as far as the curriculum goes, should be foundational movement patterns like crawling and, general physical preparation. That should always be a part of it, but also the instruction. You shouldn't see a kid playing 6 different types of guard before the age of 9. Okay. And I know a lot of places that do that. Yeah. They make these little kids drill and they're achieving 0.
Yeah.
If they can play some gamified version of grappling and you see that, maybe it's a very minimal drilling, a lot of mat discipline where, kids know where they're going and are aware of their partners around them, and the professors or the coaches are doing a good job of managing the classroom. I think that's huge too, but gamifying. Like the kids should be playing a game and getting physical, putting hands on kids as often as possible. Just that should be the focus. They shouldn't be worried too much about too many techniques, and also a dojo that doesn't push kids to compete right away. Mm. I think that's a big one because we're not trying to. The goal shouldn't be to make champions. It should be to make better people. So that's what I tell somebody who's looking for a place to go to. But if you don't have that many options, you go to that place, try not to get super involved, because you have to trust that the academy is doing stuff in the best interest of your child. So, but I would say I would use those 3 as kind of a filter. And then if it's still no good, might as well learn jiu-jitsu yourself and then teach it to the kids.
Well, I think as a parent, having done it first and then watching the kids, I'm just excited for them to have fun.
Yeah.
But that's always what I hope for my kids. I was at Cash's baseball yesterday, and like some of these parents take this shit so serious.
Yeah.
And maybe because I was able to play for so long at such a high level that I remember when it was like this, that when I see parents doing that, it kind of kills it a little bit. You look at like the amount of training that Philippe and Victor and those guys do in their 20s. And, talking to them about what they did, I don't think what Victor did jiu-jitsu until he was 14.
Yeah.
I know Philippe started pretty early. But, having fun and going on that deal and looking at it for something you can do for a lifetime, just not a few short months.
Yeah. Who remembers? This is not trying to throw shade, but who remembers any of the brown belt titles? Very short list, right? The memorable ones are the Black Belt World Championships, and it took a lot of work to get to that spot.
Yeah.
So who's going to remember the Pans kids under 7-year-old gray belt champion. Like, don't put too much pressure on him. Like, the journey is just starting, and like, their development will come in waves, and then you'll actually be able to see where are the areas that your child needs to focus on. Maybe they're better at academics. That's great.
Do the kids at Six Blades? I mean, I know we talked about cash competing, but like, what's the kind of the overall mindset? Are some parents for it? Some kids are for it? I mean, is it just kind of, hey, if you want to do it, it's here, it's available. If not,
well, I think it's mostly about the aptitude first. So the kids obviously got to know how to play all the games, and I think there are some kids that struggle with physicality more than others, and then also the attitude. So if you notice a kid has a competitive attitude, yeah, that's obvious, right? You'll be able to know right away. And then if you have a kid that has grown to be competitive, so started off shy and then gets competitive and is pretty lighthearted about winning and losing, that's a great sign that kid should compete. And we don't announce, but we are going to be in the process of developing like in-house tournaments. So
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I know for and we've talked about this before. I mean, the kids come in and train, but there's no end goal for it.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of similar, like, Cash plays baseball. He has 2 games a week, and we show up, 30, 40 minutes ahead of time before the game, and they practice.
Yeah.
And like, they don't do a ton of skill development. So now after school on the way home, we found a place between Cash's school and home. That's like a baseball place. We can take him for 30 minutes, and this guy works on his pitching, works on his hitting.
Yeah.
And so like Kate literally will drop him off there, hang out for 30 minutes. He like whatever the skill to develop, and then we just bring him home. And he's progressing faster because he's actually developing the skills more so than just playing.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of the parents, they're like, hey, I'm bringing him in. I want to see them play, not just merely take them to practice.
Yeah. I think the baseball example is like the far end of that, right? They play so many games, they never get a chance to practice. And jiu-jitsu, it seems like, at least in kids programs, it can be easy to let them train a ton and never have like a recital or a competition season. Like, every activity has a recital that they're working for, like whether it's dance or band or baseball, for instance. There's a season,
sure,
right? So you train and then you go play your season. And I think it would be a really interesting concept to develop like a kids competition season.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be in the winter time when they're not competing in other sports. Because winter is kind of the downtime, right?
Yeah.
Football's in the fall. Soccer is kind of in the fall as well. Baseball ends like after summertime. So,
dude, these kids play baseball. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm trying to get Cashy back in. I mean, he had a baseball game yesterday.
Yeah.
He has practice today, and if it's canceled, which it might be canceled, I'm going to bring him to Jits today.
Nice. Do you remember that South Park episode where the kids were playing baseball and their team started winning and they made it to the playoffs? And then every team after that just purposefully lost against them. And they got so good at losing because they realized that the better you were at youth baseball, the longer your summer was in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
So they get to the finals.
Dude, it's intense. One day, I would imagine you want to have kids.
Yeah.
Is jiu-jitsu something that you would like for your kids to do?
For sure. I think there's a ton of value in it. Martial arts in general, I think, are probably the first difficult activity any kid will do that doesn't necessarily have any fun right in front of it. So like throwing a baseball, that's fun right away.
Yeah.
Swimming, that's fun right away. We're going to jump in the pool. We're going to have a ton of fun. But martial arts, like, hey, I'm going to show you how to like wrestle and like get super uncomfortable, and then the gi is warm, and then this and that, and you're also going to be doing a lot of exercise, but trust me, it's fun. And then they're like, well, it doesn't look like fun. Like, that kid's on bottom.
He's getting smashed.
Yeah, he's getting smashed. So there's a little bit of coaxing with the games and like the activities that we can play in jiu-jitsu. So I think it's really important. We're just talking about it today as a team. We're competing with iPads.
Yeah.
We're competing with iPads. Every activity. Roblox. We're competing with all those because if you let your kid, and this is kind of the argument against any parent that's like, well, he's just not that interested in this right now. And it could be for any sport. but jiu-jitsu probably stands out the most because it is a difficult activity. Well, that's fine. You can allow your kid to do exactly what they want all the time, which is play on their iPad and eats candy. And yeah, do you also tell you what's for breakfast too? Like, I don't know. So in my opinion, there has to be a little bit more of a diligence on the parents' side to say, no, the martial arts experience or a jiu-jitsu experience is important for my child.
Yeah.
They have to learn how to be comfortable with getting physical, because one day they're going to have to get physical. It happens to everybody.
Yeah.
It's not a violent society, but at school it happens.
I hope it happens earlier than later.
Right.
I know for me, when I was 6 and we got into martial arts, we were in Shotokan, and it was katas. So we had to do, it's like for those of you guys that don't know, a kata is a series. It's almost like an organized dance with a series of movements that you just kind of execute. So we would go in and we had to stay in lines, and we'd learn all these different like punches and kicks and have to do them till we were nauseous. And then you would go through this kata practice. He would do it, and then you would have to like practice this thing. And then to get belts, you would have to show that you knew these kicks and punches, and then do this kata, and they would grade you, and that's how you got the belt. Yeah. After four years of doing that, I was like, this is the dumbest thing. I don't want to kick anybody. And I hated it. And that's when I got into, boxing and kickboxing and some other things. Yeah. Just because I was there for the contact. I wasn't there for this, demonstration of like a beautiful form against air. And it seemed ridiculous to me. Yeah. You feel that glove rub against your nose for the first time. You're like, whoa, did somebody just touch me in the face? Well, and like people used to starch their gis. So it was like, whoosh, and it sounded like Star Trek when the doors open. It was like, and like that's what they go for, to the point where they would like bring their gi in. It was like kind of walking in for them, and they put this thing on. It was so stiff. Yeah. And I thought it was, and what's crazy though is my instructor, this old dude, he was like, knuckles were all, scarred up. His feet were scarred. Like he had a bunch of fight scars, and yet we never did anything combative. Mm-hmm. And I always wonder if that was like, this was probably the 80s. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just seemed like a different time. But the thing I enjoy about jiu-jitsu is the fact that, today's your first day. You're going to have somebody on top of you. You're going to be working through the deal, and you're probably going to end up on the bottom getting smashed. Yeah, that's the cool part about jiu-jitsu. And even for the adults is that, we do some version of sparring every day. Yeah. And not every martial art you can do that. So like the striking martial arts, absolutely, there's not a single day other than fight day. Like if you signed up for an amateur fight or a pro fight, that you're giving your 100% to knock the dude out. But in jiu-jitsu, you can get close to your 100% trying to pass a guard or take the back. You can give your best effort almost every day and not hurt your partner, barring some like exceptions. But like in general, you can give your effort into the activity. And same with your kids. I've never seen happier, like more relaxed kids than coming off of a jiu-jitsu match and be like, ooh. Like you can see that they went through something, rosy cheeks, whatever it is, and they actually did a physical activity. So I don't know if the same could be said for, other activities, but like baseball, it seems like they have a lot of energy after practice. So it was hot yesterday, man. I was getting dying. Well, dude,
anyway,
that's awesome. Asked and answered. Thanks for tuning in. Another episode of Power Athlete Radio. Hey there, Power Athlete Nation. Big shout out to all the heavy hitters who stuck around till the final whistle. If you've been soaking in the knowledge bombs and epic tales we've been dropping for free, here's your chance to be a game changer. Swing by kofi.com/powerathlete and toss a few bucks our way to keep the podcast fueled and firing on all cylinders. That's ko-fi.com/powerathlete. Your support makes a difference. See ya.